Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey chapter
459.
It is the third day of the week, aka the Spirit Bomb workout. I'm feeling very good right now, very excited for this workout. But anyways, to the main subject matter for today, disappointing purchases. So the main reason why I wanted to discuss this is because, not to go off of what happened in the previous episode, see right here about wasted potential, but this is more of a just objects that you possibly buy with something in mind. The reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I recently bought some stickers that were not very good, unfortunately. I'm a very sticker heavy person, as you may or may not have seen in random videos or in the background of stuff. I do like stickers in general, but I occasionally buy some whenever the occasion comes up, and one of my favorite bands is having an anniversary from one of my favorite albums, so I bought some of the stickers. But unfortunately, the stickers are very low quality, so that's just the name of the game, really. I can't really be that mad because realistically, it never said it was going to be high quality. It's not Sticker Mule, sponsor me. But anyways, the main reason why I want to discuss this is because this got me thinking about other purchases that I've made in the past where I've purchased, generally speaking, spent varying amounts of money depending on what it was and getting different results for it. And I think there is definitely an apex to where the more money you spend the more disappointing it is, that it's just kind of like, damn. I do think that at a certain point, though, that it kind of like tapers off where no matter what, it was going to be disappointing regardless. It could, unless it's going to give you like superpowers or something. I think that is the case. It's very rare to find something that's like super expensive and is worth it, unless it's like something like super serious, like a water heater. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't necessarily a normal purchase, but also hot water is good, so there are certain things like that where you would hope that the end goal one would be good. But today I wanted to look at it because it also is on the other side, where if something's super cheap, whatever. But then there are things that are like, it's not that cheap, but not that expensive, but very disappointing. So in today's episode, we're going to be looking at that basically because I feel like that is something that happens to everybody. I think most people get something and that they think it's one thing, in reality it's not that. You have a whole series about this, especially now with scam sites like Temu and all these other things, even though you can find stuff, which we will talk about that in a bit. But with that being said, we're going to look at all this type of stuff and everything that goes in between when we get to the race.
All right, so started this day off with AD press, which is pretty good. But anyways, back to the main subject matter for today. Disappointing purchases. So the main reason why I wanted to discuss this is because I had bought some stickers and the quality of them kind of fucking sucked. And it was kind of shitty in a certain sense. I didn't like it because online, I understand, before I continue, I understand that personally online purchases are truly a gamble. You really never know if you're actually going to get what you're going to get. Even something like Amazon, which is still decent in a certain sense, has become somewhat of a roulette, depending, of course, on what you're getting. That's why there's a whole other episode in here when it comes to Amazon shopping, as that is a kind of a different beast in a certain sense, as well as scams, because that's also a different beast. Obviously, I know that I'm not going to get a fully functioning, working Thanos glove for $9.95. You know what I mean? I'm not going to get a movie style replica for something that cheap. I understand that there are like levels of scamming that happen to make sense. Obviously, that isn't what I'm talking about here in this case. I'm talking about buying something where it's somewhat of a reputable source, or at least what you think is a reputable source, and all of a sudden you just get not what you expected, or the quality sucks. I think this happens a lot with clothing more than anything, where you all of a sudden buy something and the quality or the material or the cut or whatever it is just not up to par. But with this case, it was stickers, and I thought that the quality of the actual prints would have been better. But then again, I just took the gamble, and that's the issue with a lot of the online purchasing, or at least online purchases, is that you can't check necessarily if they're going to use high res quality on certain things. Now, of course, there are services that bank on those types of things, but also at the same time, not everybody's going to use those sources. So it's kind of shitty in a certain sense. But at the same time, I also didn't pay that much for these stickers. So at the end of the day, it was nothing for me. Like, it wasn't like I was like, oh my God, I lost $30 on stickers. Now, if I had paid $30, I would have been making way more of a stink on this, of course. But that's the thing. There's definitely a spectrum of how much you're willing to spend and how much the disappointment is allowed, of course. Something like a video game where it's $60, now $70. If it sucks, there is a disappointment factor that's higher than something like stickers, because stickers like $10, $15. It's nothing too crazy. But with video games, at least there is also an expectation of being entertained, as well as the time that you would have used in order to, play the game. And thus it's kind of a disappointment if you're paying, $70 and this thing sucks, or even worse, it's just like boring or whatever. And then it's just like you're wasted money on nothing. As money progresses, the more and more that the disappointment can possibly become, and that makes it so that the higher you get, if it doesn't do something for you, it's really going to be more and more disappointing. And of course, there are certain things that are kind of outside of the scope. There are people who buy things like collectibles, and that fulfills some weird thing inside of them, which whole different story. I'm not talking about that, but like, generally, if you're going to buy like a computer part and then you think it's going to make everything so much better, but in reality, it makes everything like 5% better. And it's kind of disappointing when having something like that occur to you. And I think that everybody's had that, where they've bought something thinking that this is going to change the game for them, whatever it is, whether it be it in a hobby or something that they need for like playing games or just comfort or anything like that. But in reality, it's not something that actually does that for them. And it sucks, because I think that it's a very common thing. Everybody's had at least a shitty purchase where they were like, I did not need this, or, oh, this really isn't as good or as life-changing. I was sold something. And it's definitely there are certain points where you understand that there are certain points where it just meets like, all right, no matter how good it is, there is a certain point where no matter how good the purchase is, the price will always be on your mind after a certain point. Like if something is really, really good, but then you're like, yeah, it should be good. I paid $6,000 for this, and then it's like, if it wasn't good, like anything then lower than what it already is already seen as disappointing. So there are certain things that it has to be living up to whatever the price tag is. So it is an interesting dynamic. I just hate that even smaller things nowadays are truly like a gamble, because you purchase it online. You can't see it in person. And it sucks, but like I said, it's not the biggest of deals. If it's smaller purchases, yeah, I'm not too crazy about it. Like, it's not the end of the world. But if I would have paid more, I definitely would have been actually saying something about it. I think there is that spectrum where you will start talking more and more vividly about it, especially if you sink more dollars into it. Also, if you are the first in line to try a new product, you are the beta tester. And it sucks when you are the beta tester, because you are willingly knowing that there will probably be a better version later on that is probably cheaper or just better in most general aspects, or like use case scenarios for this type of thing, as you, the first user, have ironed out all of the kinks inside of whatever you're purchasing. Something like a drum machine or something like that, where you're the first in line to buy the original and then the second one is slightly better. But stuff like that is a little less of a disappointment, but more so you know what you're getting yourself into, or you should at least know that you're getting yourself into that, which sucks. But sometimes certain things just fit perfectly, where you're willing to take the disappointment knowing that there's going to be a second version after.
And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed, done. Exercises skipped, also done. Got everything in, thankfully. But anyways, back to the main subject matter for today. Disappointing purchases. So the main reason why I wanted to discuss this is because, like I said, this happened to me recently, and it was something that I was like, damn, I'm not necessarily that pissed off, because it wasn't that much money. So it wasn't like an extreme amount, but at the same time, I think that it started reaching over into like I expected a slightly more quality for the price that I paid for what is essentially stickers. Yes, of course, they're stickers. So at the end of the day, who really cares? But also there is a level of quality I would have liked, but I'm not necessarily too butthurt. They weren't that expensive, so I'm not necessarily that crazy about it. But I imagine if they were double that price, I would have probably been pissed. And I think that that's the biggest thing about it. That's interesting about it. When you're so dead set on something, you get it, and then it's not that, or it's worse, or the quality kind of sucks, and it's not worth the price that they're selling it for. It's a very disappointing thing, especially now on the internet where people will scam things throughout all the time, just selling products that aren't even necessarily real. It's all AI, and you get the miniature version of what you were watching that was like the size of like a wall or something like that, and it's just a sick joke on you. I think that this particularly isn't necessarily that, because that's just straight scamming, but more so just something that you actually had in mind that was going to be good, or something that you had like thoughts and ideas were going to make your life a little easier, but end up not really doing that. It's like the idea of upgrading a computer only to realize that you're going to need something completely different or even more powerful than you realized, or that at the end it didn't really actually matter. It was all about stability. I use the free version of DaVinci Resolve to edit all these videos. And I know that if I buy the actual purchase version, apparently it will upgrade the usage of all of my components in my computer. So I was very close to upgrading my computer, but I don't even necessarily need to do that. So I would have been doing that for literally no gain when I just have to buy the software. So it is also a watching what you purchase to make sure that it actually does what you need it to do type of thing. But then again, some things you're always just going to be the first in line to get fucked over, and really it kind of sucks, but sometimes you kind of live and you learn, right? I can attest to a lot of this type of stuff where you think about it where it's going to be so great, and in reality it gets nothing involved, or it doesn't do anything close to what it promised. And I think that it's an experience everybody's had at least once in their life, and if they haven't, good job, because you've avoided that for such a long time. I think that it just happens to happen. I don't think that there's much you can do about it, especially when people sell things for the most amount of profit humanly possible. You're just going to get shortcuts here and there. Qualities go down, things like that, especially in clothing. But clothing is a whole other industry that we will talk about in another episode. But with that being said, tell me what you think in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions about this one. This one kind of random, but still something that happened to me nonetheless. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like it. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I will see you in the next one. Keep it heavy. Stay safe out there. Stay warm. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.